Hey guys and girls, so I know you love a good Valhalla events rant video, and you've got a new one. So you may, certain people may know that this is a response to events that are happening in the knife making community currently and recently, and so we'll just leave that at that. But the concept that I want to talk about is ideas and concepts and techniques in any craft. My craft is knife making, so that's a craft that has a history thousands of years long, literally thousands. You'd be surprised how far back it goes. However, because the craft that I work in is so old, everything that we do today stands upon the shoulders of the giants that came before us. We are using techniques without even thinking about it that were discovered by somebody else and perfected over time by a system of people learning it, refining it, improving on it, and then teaching that, which then gets refined, improved, and so on and so forth for literally thousands of years. And so, if somebody comes up with a new idea, they have to be very careful about how they approach that. And why I say they have to be careful is because in order for our craft to advance, we need to share information. We need to share concepts, techniques, especially for the purpose of refining them. You start seeing the world through a very narrow lens if you only look at your own stuff. You need to build upon the work of others. So everything from forging techniques to heat treatment techniques to the tools that we use, from anvils to tongs and things, were all invented by somebody at some point and then refined over the course of a very, very long time. A lot of experimentation and a lot of sharing of knowledge. That's the whole concept behind guilds from way back when. It was to teach and share and refine and encourage others to grow that knowledge and discover more things. Humans love discovering new things. So it's understandable in this world that is very capitalist driven that if somebody invents something new, they may want to hold on to it and maybe monetize it. And a certain part of me can empathize with that. However, how you go about that matters. So if you're going to have a new idea and then tell everybody else that they can't use it, or that if they come up with it, maybe somebody comes up with the same idea somewhere else. If you claim that that's your idea when they have done the work to come up with it themselves, just because it's coincidentally the same as the idea that you came up with, that's a dick move. To use the technical term, that is a dick move. So no matter how cool an idea you have is, you should share it. It's just ethically and morally correct to do. If you choose not to, that is your choice. But don't go claiming that idea as your property and then, like a dog, going and pissing on every post that you see online using what you think is your technique and claiming it as your technique, especially when that person came up with it independent of you on their own. That's a very, very, very dick move to do. So, to highlight how I think things should be done, I have come up with a new idea. Literally, as of filming this, yesterday afternoon, I came up with an idea. And I did some tests. It looked really cool. I refined it to a point where I think it's usable by other people. And I'm now doing this YouTube video to explain in detail where the idea came from, what the idea is, and how you can do it yourself. Because I think it's really cool, and I think this is how people should operate in this community. And I want people, I'm doing this so that people will actually take the idea that I have come up with and expand on it, refine it, make it better, and maybe it will evolve into even cooler ideas further down the line. Cooler ideas which would not have happened if I were to get all possessive over the idea and claim it. Now, you're not going to see me hunt down every post that uses this idea and claim it as mine and say, oh, it's great to see you using my idea. I'm giving it to the world through YouTube. So it's not my idea anymore. I've given it up. So let me show you the technique that I have invented and then tell you the backstory of it and teach you how to do it yourself. By the way, small interjection. If this video seems a little heated, it's because I'm filming it very ad-lib. This has not been prepared in advance. I just wanted to point out two things. One, coming up with new ideas can happen very fast, and it's a very incidental thing. It's how creatives work. So this whole start to finish of me making this idea and then publishing this idea has happened in 24 hours. I'm not special for having done it. Second thing is, if you're a person who is willing to sacrifice the advancement of your community and your craft for the sake of your own ego, you're a bit of a dick. Anyway, let me show you the technique. So this is the technique in question. It's a finish that looks kind of like gold leaf, and it shimmers in the light, catches light in very cool ways. It looks sort of little facets, and you can do this technique on brass like I've done here. You can do it on steel or any metal, really. It will work just fine. So first of all, there's a little bit of a backstory that I need to tell you to give credit where credit is due. So I stumbled upon this technique accidentally while executing a different technique that was taught to me by none other than Stuart Anthony Smith, the knife maker from Smith Handforged Knives. Wonderful maker, very talented, and does beautiful work. And he kept using this one particular technique, which I thought was very eye-catching and a great way to detail fill a piece, to give it more visual appeal. And so I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, would you mind showing me this technique? And Stuart, being the legend that he is, didn't just show me, he showed everybody. He put out a live stream on his Instagram, which he's saved, and you can go to his profile and find it, that actually teaches you in great detail how to do it. And basically it's using a painting technique with a blunt carbide ball burr. And the painting technique is called scumbling. And what scumbling is basically moving your brush around in chaotic figure-of-8 patterns like this. So it's basically constantly drawing the figure-8 like that. And without applying very much pressure, just basically resting a blunt ball burr against the work while doing this creates the scumbling pattern. And I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so Stuart Smith's scumbling technique uses a 1/8" 3mm ball burr. You can see it's like a single cut ball burr, and this one's quite blunt, and the more blunt the better. And he took pains to stress this to me, and I have seen why since, because you want the cuts to be fairly deep, but you also don't want to have to apply too much pressure. If you apply too much pressure with this, the effect doesn't work. So basically what we're going to be doing is going like this chaotically while spinning it at a high speed, but not putting down much pressure at all, just enough to rest it against the surface, because it's going to want to bounce a lot. So you sort of want to allow it to bounce a little by just applying light downward pressure. And that technique looks a little something like this. And so you can see how it does add quite a bit of sort of visual appeal. If it would focus, good heavens. So it just adds this nice sort of roughness texture that is actually not very deep. So you can accentuate this by hitting it with some fine steel wool to buff it a bit. Put a blackening compound in there, like brass black or something like that. And then polishing off the tops lightly adds extra contrast, but either way, it's a valuable thing to use. However, watch what happens if I do an adjacent panel after rotating the workpiece this way. So now we have this, and you can see there's kind of a faceting effect that's starting to happen. if I do this, you can very clearly see the definition between the two sections, which is why when you're actually doing Stuart Smith's scumbling method, you want to keep it in the same orientation the whole way. Otherwise, you'll get this faceting effect. But I thought, what if we were to actually deliberately make use of this faceting effect to get a shimmer like this? So that is where that idea came from. So what I found is if partway through the scumbling process you change the orientation of the work, the way the light bounces off the scumbling changes. And so you can create sections of your scumbled work that will catch the light differently. And if you do it wrong, if you do this while you're trying to do Stuart Smith's scumbling technique, it looks awful. It makes your scumbling look very, very bad. And so what I thought is, what if you could actually control that and very carefully and deliberately do it in a certain way, you'd actually be able to make a sort of faceted gold leaf effect. And that's what led to this. So let me show you how I do that. So if we flip this over and go to a new side, I'll show you how we do the gold leaf effect. So you start with a scribe. And what you want to do is you want to take the area that you're going to put the effect, and you want to scribe a line, and then another line, and then another line, and you want to keep going to create these cells in there. Okay? So how big the cells are, you kind of want to make them no more than probably 5 millimeters across. I don't know what that is in imperial. I will edit it down here. But the smaller they are, the better this looks. But if they go too small, past a certain point, smaller than about an 1/8 inch across, they start losing the shimmer effect quite a bit. So you can see here, I now have this sort of crosswork of randomly sized and shaped cells. And that randomization is kind of key to making this look good. So what we're going to do, if I come in here and focus, I'm now going to come in, keeping the work in this orientation. I'm going to come in and scumble, using these scribes as a template. I'm going to scumble a random assortment of the cells, but no adjacent cells. So I'll show you what that looks like. So just like that, I've scumbled some of the cells, but no adjacent cells. I'm now going to rotate the workpiece 90 degrees, and I'm going to do the same thing. But now I can do adjacent cells, but just no adjacent ones in this orientation. So now the workpiece is a little bit more full, so I'm going to rotate it again, and I'm going to do this again. And then rotate, and again. And this time, rather than orienting it another 90 degrees, which would put us back to where we start, I'm going to go 45 degrees. And I'm going to get any remaining cells. Now, if I still had cells left, I could start rotating it on the diagonals as well, but it gives you 8 different angles to work with. But now, as I move it, the light catches it in different ways, and I have the gold leaf effect. And that's how you do it. Simple as that. It's quite easy to do, but very effective if done right. So I claim no ownership over this technique because it's simply an adaptation of the work that Stuart Smith did, and Stuart Smith took it from the painting community, and who knows who came up with that originally. Scumbling's been around for centuries in painting. And so this is what I'm talking about. I have built upon the work of others. I am standing on the shoulders of giants, as are we all. I'm giving this to you freely because I want you to go and use it, and I want you to expand on it and maybe come up with even cooler ideas based on using it. And that's the whole point. New ideas come from the old ideas that we have been working with. So that's how a community advances. It's how a craft advances. It's how they always have. I'm not going to now go around to every post of everybody that uses this technique and comment on them saying, it's great to see you using my technique, because that would be just egotistical and moronic. So yeah, I encourage you to come up with new ideas. I encourage you in whatever craft you're doing to work with the knowledge you have to come up with new ideas and then share them so that others can build upon your work and make even cooler ideas, because a rising tide floats all ships. And that's just how it works. It's how it always has worked. So yes, this is a very thinly veiled shot at a particular maker. They know who they are. I'm sure a lot of viewers know who they are. But that's how I roll. I hate gatekeepers, and I will systematically hunt down every gatekeeper I find. Anyway, quick video today. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you use this technique, and I'm very keen to see what people do with it. And I'm very keen to see what it evolves into over time. Anyway, I'll catch you all later. I hope you had a great Christmas, New Year period. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.